Thousands of mourners have been paying their respects to George Floyd over a 6-hour public viewing today in Houston. A private funeral will be held tomorrow, after which Floyd will be laid to rest. And as his 6-year-old daughter said in a video that's now gone viral,
"That changed the world."
He really has, because we've certainly seen protests before, but nothing quite like this, with demonstrations in every single state and around 50 other countries across the globe, leading to at least some indications of real change, like the mayors of LA and New York promising to cut police funding, Boston Mayor Marty Walsh vowing to look at reallocating some of the police budget, and the Minneapolis City Council announcing yesterday it plans to defund and replace the city's police department.
One thing folks are asking is to stop investing so much money in this militarized police force and instead invest in the things that our community really needs.
Democrats in the House and Senate also unveiled a bill today aimed at national police reform. Among other changes, the bill would classify lynching as a federal hate crime, ban chokeholds and other similar restraints by police, and end no-knock search warrants in drug cases. It would also reform the so-called qualified immunity officers have now, making it easier to sue for constitutional rights violations, and would make it less impossible, I guess we'd say, to prosecute officers under federal law. More broadly, the Justice Department and state attorneys general would have the power to carry out pattern and practice investigations. In all, the bill has more than 200 co-sponsors.
True justice can only be achieved with full, comprehensive action. That's what we are doing today. This is a first step. There is more to come.
We must pass legislation that makes our common values and our common ideals real in the law of our land.
We're here because Black Americans want to stop being killed.
Trump is also reportedly weighing a speech on race and unity at the urging of White House advisors. I'm joined now by LaTosha Brown, co-founder of the Black Voters Matter Fund, a nonprofit aimed at increasing voter engagement. LaTosha, we miss you. It's good to see you.
It's good to be here. It's good to be here. Thank you.
So, do protests equal votes in the fall, particularly amongst African Americans, or is that not enough?
So I don't think it's about the protests necessarily equaling votes. I do think that it energizes the base. I think that ultimately it's a particular kind of energy that people are very frustrated right now, and they seek change. And what we do know is there's always an uptick in people participating when they think that there's something that they're really passionate about. And so I think what we'll see in the question is, how do we take this energy and literally be able to turn that into people really tapping into power and seeing some possibilities?
Well, as you've seen, Trump's approval numbers are dropping like a rock. We're going to put it up on a stage. But is it enough for politicians to say the right thing and not be Trump? Is that enough? Or do politicians actually have to produce results this time around?
No, we're in a different, let's say this is very different. We've not seen a protest this long. Even the Rodney King protest did not last this long. Like, people are frustrated because, let's be honest, we've got compiled issues going on. We've got COVID-19 that's been devastating to the African-American community. And then we've got this issue with George Floyd, and people are quite frankly fed up. And then we have a president who has been openly anti-democratic. And so all of that in itself has created a certain environment, but that doesn't guarantee people are going to go to the polls. We've got to see, it's one thing to say people vote against, but many of those folks never voted for Trump in the first place. But there's something that has to really take it to the next level for them to vote for something. And that's what's going to be really important this election.
Well, one of the things that got the biggest headlines, as I said in the introduction to you, was a 9-3 vote of the Minneapolis City Council to defund and replace the police there. Your Twitter account retweeted a tweet suggesting that is the solution for the future. Do you worry that while that will drive some people to the polls to vote the way you want them to vote, that something that's seen as radical as that by some voters will drive other voters to vote against your interests?
Yeah, at this point, I mean, if I think that ultimately we all need to see that Trump is just bad for democracy. That ultimately, that if fundamentally in this moment, all 50 states had protests. And so while on one hand, I think that the people that are going to vote for Trump are going to vote for Trump, right? And I think ultimately there may be some in the middle that may feel some way around this is going to be changed. But ultimately, America is asking for change right now. There are millions of people in the streets in all 50 states.
But LaTosha, is there a litmus test? I mean, I know you led a campaign in Nashville to get a civilian review board, and people voted overwhelmingly for it. Is it a civilian review board? Is it defunding and restructuring police departments? Is it ending chokeholds? Are there criteria that you believe need to be met, particularly by Democrats, but I assume some Republicans as well, for them to earn the votes of African Americans who've been on the wrong side of this issue for the losing side of this issue for decades, centuries?
Absolutely. Every time this happens, let's go back and talk about how this happens. Normally what happens is there is this incident, there's an uprising, police get arrested, there's some incremental passive policy that changes, and we're back at that level again. And nothing ever fundamentally changes. And so I think what people are demanding now, what I'm hearing on the ground, we're working in 11 states consistently. People want to see structural change. It is not enough just to arrest the officers. It will not be enough just to say that chokeholds are banned, because technically chokeholds were illegal in the first place. And so at the end of the day, because it didn't provide due process, that did not change it, nor did it stop it. At this point, there's an opportunity, and we're seeing a multiracial, multi-generational, all across this nation of people, citizens saying that they want to see something different, that they want to see structural change. And we can't overlook that. We can't step over that. This is something different. In this moment, the character of what people are asking for and what I'm hearing and talking to people on the streets about is distinctively different than what we've seen in the past. We're not going to be able just to have these Band-Aid effects that go on, and there's never any real change.
One last separate thing, mail-in voting. That seems to be the direction that lots of activists are going, whether it's because of COVID-19 or because they think it'll generate more votes. But you know better than I, amongst the lowest rate of return for mail-in voting in this country are African-American voters. Are you not at cross purposes with some reformers with whom you agree on all the issues?
You know, my organization, Black Voters Matter, has been saying from the beginning is that we need a buffet of different issues. We need many options. That some people are going to go to the polls and vote. Some people are going to get mail-in ballots. Right now, currently, there are thousands of folks. We're getting bombarded with phone calls, including by we had entertainers to call us, including Cliff Albright, who is the founder, his son, who put in to get a mail-in ballot, still have not received their mail-in ballots. And so people are going to the polls, standing in line right now, where we're supposed to have social distancing for literally for blocks, waiting for 5 to 6 to 7 hours. It's unconscionable. So something is breaking down. What we need options. We need to make sure that one, we're actually, for Black Voters Matter, we've been asking that the polls stay open, that when we're talking about social distancing, you don't shrink the polls, the availability and the access point. You leave them open so you won't have this crowdedness, so that you won't have an issue where people are vulnerable. You also strengthen the process of absentee ballot and mail-in ballots. We are a democracy. America is supposed to be the strongest democracy in the world. If we can figure out how to put a man on the moon, certainly we can figure out how to expand access and make sure that we have access for people to express the fundamental right in this country, and that is the right to vote.
Let me tell you, the way you put it, that's the perfect place to end. LaTosha, it's good to see you. I hope to see you again in person soon.
Great to see you. Stay safe and be well.
Same to you as well. Take care. We also wanted to update you on our segment last week of Suffolk County DA Rachel Rollins, who defended herself against criticism from the Boston Police Patrolmen's Association, which had released a statement condemning her for what it called reckless statements, labeling all police officers murderers and accusing her of inciting violence against police. If you missed it, Rollins stood by what she said and offered this clarification.
My statements were never intended for the majority of officers that are upstanding, hardworking, courageous, and culturally competent that I work with every day. I'm talking about the outliers, the ones who, like Derek Chauvin, can kill. If our Boston Police Patrolmen's Association and detectives don't feel comfortable saying this is not one of our own, then I have a problem with that, and I don't have a problem saying it out loud.
We reach out to the police union to invite them to respond, but so far, no agreement to join us.